Hi, welcome back to MetapunkZero. This is Andre, and today I'm going to talk about what is up with the channel. Um, it's been a long time since I've made a video. I've started and stopped the channel many times in the past, lots of fits and starts, and I want to talk about why that is. I've always made excuses for it, but the real fact is there's good reasons behind it, and there's reasons why I haven't made any videos in quite some time, and how I'd like to change that. And the short answer is that in late 2022 and throughout 2023, I suffered a pretty devastating depression and psychosis. And Metapunk has always been about kind of three main things, or you can boil it down to three main things, which are storytelling, spirituality, and mental health. And the spirituality part contains philosophy and cognitive science and lots of other things. I could expand that, um, but the mental health thing and the intersection of mental health and spirituality is something that's always been very important to me because I have battled with my mental health all of my life. Um, I'm going to talk about that, and this might be it might be a lot of oversharing, and I'm going to try to be careful with that and to honor my own boundaries as well as to respect my audience and be as honest as possible and try to convey some information which hopefully will be useful to other people, particularly other people that might be going through similar things, or to practitioners that want to help those people. I had a recent experience where somebody, a psychiatrist, told me that my sharing my experience with him had really helped him relate to his patients better and help his patients in a more comprehensive way, and in a way that really honored kind of what they were going through, in a way that maybe the mainstream approach to mental health and particularly psychosis really doesn't tend to do. And that was a really meaningful thing that he told me, and that's always something that I've wanted to do is to share what I've learned, to share my lessons and insights from the negative experiences that I've had, and how they might relate to life in general, right? And I see that as a spiritual calling in a big way, and I've always gravitated toward the shamanic sort of approach to things. Not that, I want to be careful about not appropriating any particular traditions, but shamanism and the shamanic approach to things, the animistic approach to life, is the oldest birthright, the oldest religion that humanity has ever known. It's been practiced all over the world since the beginning of time, basically, as far as humans are concerned. And I don't see myself as really appropriating that, as long as I'm not delving into specific traditions or language groups, or particular groups that I'm not a part of. But just as a human being, I want to convey how my struggles have led to lessons, and what those lessons how those lessons maybe can be applied by other people if they find themselves in similar circumstances or dealing with similar situations. And so I see that partly as a shamanic calling, or as a certainly as something I want to do, as something I need to do to express my own experience, but also as something that maybe other people can get something out of. So it's a bit of a duty as well. And so, without rambling too much about it, um, yeah, I went through that psychosis last year. It's why I've been really quiet lately, but I've struggled with it all my life, and that's why my career is not where I'd like it to be. Metapunk should be a body of work that I established. I started this stuff like 20 years ago, longer than that now, and and I would have hoped by now that it would be more. But in middle age, I think right now the best thing that I can offer the world is to just share my experience, because I've been quiet for a long time about that, and trying to play a role where I fit up to normal standards, and act like I have everything put together. And there's a lot of that in this world. That's something that we all have to struggle with to some degree, is the nature of our authenticity, and the tension between that authenticity and the need to perform, the need to get results, the need to be put together, the need to present an image that other people will buy into, because we need to do this in order to get acceptance from other people. And I mean, the simple fact is that our very survival depends on that in this world. That we live in a very crazy world because of that, and in some sense maybe that's the core issue of what we're suffering from today in the world. If the world can be said to be suffering, the meaning crisis and the strife and conflict in the world is so much of it is a tension between, as Gabor Mate puts it, between authenticity and attachment. Because from the earliest stages of our lives, we're often having to suppress our own will, our own true nature, our own desires to express, even our own needs, as human beings, in order to fit in order to be accepted, in order to be acceptable by our caregivers, who will tend to respond to us depending on how much trouble we're giving them, and so we suppress our own needs in order to be accepted, in order to be safe with our caregivers, and then that translates into school and into working life. And so our survival as adults also depends on us presenting a particular image to our employers or prospective employers, and to our colleagues, and to our peers, and to our friends, and to our Instagram followers, and whatever other social media you're on. I mean, that's how this world works, and it's kind of twisted. It's kind of twisted. It's maybe to some degree unavoidable, but I think we're really at a breaking point with that right now, because so much of our survival does depend on it, and there's so many diminishing returns for putting on this act that nobody can cope with it anymore. It's maybe, if you're getting by in life by doing that, then maybe it's worthwhile, I suppose. I mean, that's questionable for sure, but if it's not even worth your while, if you can't even make ends meet by putting on this face, then why bother with it? It's just twisting yourself into unnatural shapes in order to perform for a world that doesn't care about you one way or another, right? And we don't want to live in that world. And so, and here I've gone, and interestingly enough, I've already made this mistake, like a little bit, by getting out of my vulnerability and talking about my axes, the axes I want to grind on this channel, talking about social issues and stuff. But to bring it back to me, to bring it back to my vulnerability, um, I've really struggled with this. And I think a lot of people really struggle with this, but I certainly have. And so I'm going to talk about that. Um, it's ringing alarm bells in my head right now. I have a lot of paranoia. A lot of psychosis is marked by paranoia. A lot of depression. A lot of social anxiety. I mean, paranoia and psychosis is kind of an extension, in many ways, of just sort of, I'm going to say, run of the mill social anxiety. But social anxiety, of course, is never run of the mill. Where it shouldn't be. I guess it is. For a lot of people. The fear of social exclusion, that need for attachment, is so predominant. It's basically humanity's biggest fear. The risk of being ostracized by the tribe. That means your life. And it starts with your caregivers, as I said, and it continues throughout your entire life. If you were exiled from your hunter gatherer kin group, back in the Stone Age, you would be, or in the present day Stone Age, for modern day hunter gatherers, which are still around, and they live a different way. They have different priorities. But if you're excluded from your social group, that's your life. It's very hard to survive in a hostile world, or in a world that is full of danger, if you don't have the support of your community. I mean, that's why we gather in social groups. And so being excluded, having poor attachment relations, is akin to death. And so, there's a reason why there's a lot of fear around it. There's a reason why I have a lot of paranoia about it, and I will talk about that more as I talk about the psychosis experience. Um, but I guess now that I've got that off my chest, that's basically what is up with MetapunkZero, and why my career hasn't been what I would like it to have been, and maybe it still can be. I hope. But I'm gonna talk about that on the channel. I'm going to call this section of the channel, I'm going to call it the Psychosis Diaries. That is going to be probably just a playlist, or like a section of the channel. I still want to talk about all the other issues, the storytelling for sure, being a great love of mine, and I think really overlapping with this and overlapping with spirituality, right? Because of course myths and religion and just ordinary storytelling are all about solving these human problems and trying to overcome them and trying to share that wisdom and that knowledge with other people, and to learn from other people's example. That is why we gather in social groups, right? And so we all want a seat at the fire to hear the stories. And so this is all related stuff, and it is all connected to the idea of the storyteller, the fireside storyteller, and the shaman, and the psychopomp, and all that stuff. And so this is the spirit, the human spirit speaking, and I'm just gonna channel my little piece of it on this YouTube channel, and hopefully other people can get something out of that. So anyway, I think I've about covered everything I need to cover for this episode. I just wanted to present this episode and this channel entirely as a message in a bottle. It's at the risk of oversharing. I just want to say you're not alone. You're not alone in your human struggles. You're not alone if you're dealing with anxiety or depression. You're not alone if you're dealing with meaninglessness and the daily grind of life in the early 21st century as we're going through all of these changes and transitions into hopefully a better world, with all the growing pains that comes with it. And most of all, especially, you're not alone if you're going through a spiritual crisis or a psychosis, or struggling to really understand what's real, because it's really hard when life gets really hard to really comprehend what the world is all about, or to know your place in it. And so I just want to say you're not alone. There's a line in Dune: mysticism is easy when you every day face open hardship. And I think there's real truth to that. And it's not just mysticism isn't just about reconciling that in some irrational way. It's about actually getting to terms with it, really coming to terms with your existential condition. And that's more important right now than ever. And so, yeah, you're not alone in that. We're all in this together. And so thank you for tuning in. And I will talk about this at greater length in other episodes. Thank you.